Well, Bob said to me, where things are going, and they're going, and really things at the tempo of the collapse. I think for almost, 560,000 people lost their jobs in December. What are those figures, right? Like?
They're underestimated for the year by 50%. The unemployment's colossal, and the underemployment is just as bad.
But of course,
you were talking about Zimbabwe, and the last person I talked to there was a friend of mine. It was a South African, and I told him that the British were going to sell out the country, and it happened 7 years after I left. But he said what you just said. He said, Bob, it can happen here. And I said, oh, yes, it can. And they said, well, the UN troops will come in and save us. I said, you've got to be kidding me. I said, the UN troops will come in and shoot you. And so they had a civil war, and finally there was the brokering of an agreement which put a communist monster into power. And that's all to do in the United States and Great Britain. And they allowed Mugabe to take the country down to oblivion, and millions of people are dying, and the same will happen to South Africa. And they're very happy about that because these people are at the lower end of the human chain, and they would like nothing more than for 80% of them to die, maybe all of them. And so that's why they did what they did.
Well, it's very interesting. The average lifespan for a male in South Africa today used to be 64. It's down around, I think, 36 or 37. And it's even less for women. Here, of course, the lifespan for the average woman is higher than the United States, but it is much. Laura, we're going to go ahead and take some calls. Well, we'll go ahead and take calls if somebody wants to come on and talk to Bob about what's going on. And I think it's very, very important that people understand that America could be going the same way as Rhodesia. I hope it doesn't. I hope and pray that it doesn't. But there was the United States State Department that brought Mugabe to power. It is the United States State Department that has kept this ruthless tyrant in power. And if we've kept him in power over there and let him destroy the people, half the people have fled from Zimbabwe today. I mean, half the population's gone. We only had 11.5 million. I think probably at least 5 million have gone, and maybe more than that by now. And the people are starving, and of course there's no medical supplies. There's no food. I mean, I don't know even how the people are managing to eke out a living. Do you, Bob?
No, I don't. And they have to contend with the military, which are monstrous. And, water was always a problem there because of bilharzia. And all the white farmers are now gone. And the Africans were, good workers, but they didn't have the acumen to run a farm for the most part. And so the great exporter of food, Rhodesia, is defunct, and now we have a great importer of food called Zimbabwe. And if you don't have any money, you can't buy any food.
But of course, money is worthless. They have a new $50 trillion note, $50 trillion note, and I wonder how soon that could happen. Here, we'll be right back in just a moment with Bob. Well, this is Dr. Stan. Our guest, of course, is Bob Chapman, and we'll go ahead. We've got a couple of callers, and so we'll take Ernie calling from Spokane. Hi, Ernie. How are you doing?
Hello, Dr. Stan. I'm doing fine.
Do you have a question for our guest?
Well, first of all, I just want to make a quick statement. I want to congratulate you both. Both guys are brave men, you and Bob. Not afraid to tell the truth in a world that we live in that truth is irrelevant to our leaders, and it's refreshing to hear this on the radio.
Well, we appreciate your words of encouragement. Your job is to get people listening to us and helping us and supporting us and getting Bob's newsletter and helping Radio Liberty so we can expand into other markets. When people hear the truth, they recognize that they know something's wrong. But, of course, you can get us on the Internet, shortwave, and get us on satellite. But, anyway, did you have a question for Bob?
Well, the only question I have is I have so many people in the business. I'm in the asphalt business, and they are saying, oh, we're going to have a big booming year this year because of the stimulus package going in. I realize when they do stimulus things like this, it can grow the economy for a short period of time. I want to know if you or Bob have an answer. Yeah. What kind of a forecast do you see of a growing of the economy before we start getting into a dip again?
All right, I think that's a very legitimate question. What do you think, Bob?
Most of the money to be spent is not in construction. I think the figure's around 8%, and that's going to be spread over quite a period of time. And so I think that in all probability, any psychological or physical boost that is gotten will probably extend until perhaps September or October, and maybe not even that long. When you have an economy of this size, like the United States, $825 billion is not a lot of money.
Correct.
And, you know, the previous $168 billion was the spit in the ocean. And they're not solving the underlying unemployment problem. They're making more temporary jobs to make the hurt go away for the time being. And it's just not going to work. And there's so many aspects of this thing that are faulty. And if you look back at what FDR did, which is the model that they're trying to follow, you'll find that in 1939 unemployment was 17.2%, and in 1940 it was 16.4%. Those figures are in the International Forecaster, which came out Saturday. I think they're correct, but it's close to where I said they were. And we're almost up to that level now. And that was after the U.S. government increased spending by 45%. So if spending was increased 45% in America, and we'd get the same results, and $825 billion is not 45%. So they have no intention of fixing anything. It's another charade, and they have no intention of bailing out the financial houses. They just want to consolidate them, and the Fed owns them all, and then they can implement their world regulations for finance, and then have their devaluation and default and new world currency. And that's the path that they're taking.
I have a feeling that they're just trying to make the American people think that they're doing something, you know, and then, my goodness, Henry Paulson's doing this, that, or the other thing, and none of them are effective. You look at the figures that are coming out, and there are more and more homes being foreclosed upon, and more people are losing their jobs, and more people, of course, are losing their insurance, but they can't let the American people know that they are intentionally going to destroy this infrastructure of our nation. Now, as far as asphalt is concerned, my concern is that it takes a long time before you can plan on building a road. Certainly, you or I could order asphalting our road tomorrow, you know, but when it comes to a government project, you know, unless maybe it's they give the money to the local city, I don't think there's going to be any tremendous number of new jobs for at least 6 months to maybe a year or a year and a half before these major highway productions get under control. So I think that they want to give everybody the false hope for it from the government. We're here to help, and those are the most frightening words you can ever hear. Anything else, Ernie?
No, I just want to thank you, gentlemen. I'll call back some other day.
All right, God bless, and thanks so very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that was Ernie calling, and we'll put out our telephone number. Our telephone number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY. 1-888-24-LIBERTY or 464-8295. And we've got Dan calling from Pennsylvania. We'll talk to Dan, and then if you're out across the country, well, we'll be glad to take your calls. Hi, Dan. How are you doing?
Pretty good, Dan.
Hold that thought. We'll be back here in just a moment with our special guest, Bob Chapman from the International Forecaster.